one of the breaking points for me was one day on the third Harry Potter movie when one of the executives said to me, "How are we going to make Harry Potter fly?" And I said, well, we've been making him fly for 2 other movies, so we're going to kind of do the same stuff.
And now, coming to you from the K2 Studios in San Diego, California, it's the world-famous Chris and Christine Show.
Hey, what's happening, everybody? How you doing today? I am Chris.
And I'm Christine, and welcome to episode 46 of the Chris and Christine Show.
Well, all right. That is fantastic. How are you doing out there in podcast land? Welcome to this wonderful Saturday in the heat, in the middle of summer.
Yes, it is sizzling, and not just because you're in the room, but
it's always sizzling because I'm in the room. I'm like walking around. It's like a hot piece
like
of fire. Sauna, fire, whatever. Smoking.
That's what you should put on your new license plate. Smoking hot.
Oh, yeah. Because my truck is magma. Was it
magma is the color.
Magma red.
Right.
Well, but it looks a little like black.
Brown.
Yeah. Well, whatever.
Yeah, I like it.
Speaking of my truck, everywhere I go, like everybody loves it. It turns heads. Just today at the car wash, the guy was drying it off, and he's like, "I love your truck." I said, "Yeah, I used to have that silver truck. If you remember, I used to bring it in here all the time." Mm-hmm. And he's like, "I don't know." But anyways, but yeah, I love this truck. You do take it off-roading? Go four-wheel drive? I said, "Not yet. I've only had the thing a month."
Yeah.
Maybe. But I think I might be afraid to take it off-road.
Yeah.
Because I might be like,
Well, it's so funny because we both took our cars to get gassed up and to get washed. And so Chris's was getting dried while I was getting ready to pull around and go into the car wash. So I'm entering into the car wash, and I see this guy checking out Chris's car, and I texted him, "That guy's flirting with you about your truck, right?" And he's like, "Yep, always," because it really is. It's a beautiful truck, and
right.
It does turn heads. And it's not just because I'm sitting in the passenger seat, because that's definitely a reason why people check it out.
Sometimes it is. Or sometimes Christine is standing up outside the limousine roof and doing like the, "Hey, everybody's checking me out."
The Vegas strip thing.
Yes.
It's like the come out through the sunroof,
right.
And you're like, "Woohoo, party girl."
Party time, exactly. So, hey, Christine, what has been going on in the last week over here at the Chris and Christine Show world?
Well, we have been in full prep mode for the upcoming first ever family road trip. Dun, 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 dun.
Yeah, we are going on a road trip. We're not bringing my truck. We're taking out Christine's new, what's your called again? Ruby Red?
Ruby the Explorer.
Ruby Ride is going out, making her maiden voyage past the city line.
Well, I've driven her to LA, but yeah, she's going to cross the state line. And, we just figured it was a better fit because it gives the kids space and it lets us pack all the luggage without things flying out. And it's just something we've been really excited about. So, Chris, where are we going starting tomorrow morning?
Starting tomorrow morning, we are hopping in the old hot rod, Ruby Red ride, and we are traveling out to the great state of Nevada.
Yes, we are.
To a small little city, a little quaint little bed and breakfast town called Las Vegas.
Or Lost Wages.
Well, yeah. Hey, speaking of that, do you know how to double your money instantly in Las Vegas?
How?
You take a $1 bill and you fold it in half. Thank you.
He's here all night, ladies and gentlemen.
So we're going to Las Vegas for one night, staying at the great Caesar's Palace.
Yes, it's our first time. I'm so excited.
It's actually a small little quaint place. You probably heard of it. I don't know.
Garden of the Gods, all that stuff.
Yeah, so I go in there. They're like, "Hey, Chris." Yeah, so anyways, but we're staying at Caesar's Palace that one night.
Right, one night.
And then we're hopping in the car and heading to Utah, which is the next state up. Yep. It's about 4-hour drive, I think, to the border.
Well, it's 4 hours to where we're going. It's only like an hour or so to the border, 2 hours to the border.
Right. And then we're going into
Zion National Park,
which we went to last year. If you remember, I think we described that in our podcast episode we did. I'm not sure what episode it was.
Yeah.
But it was an episode we did when we talked about the year in review of 2019.
Yeah, because it was right after we started doing the podcast. It was just a few weeks, like maybe a month and a half after I actually can't remember. Maybe it was before we started podcasting. I'm losing track. But we went glamping and we went to Zion, just the two of us. And then we said we really wanted to take the kids back, right, Chris?
That is right. So here's what we're doing. We're going back over there, and we're going to go to Zion National Park. We are staying in was it townhome?
Yeah, we did an Airbnb rental because, we wanted to be
Airbnb.
super careful with how many hotels we were staying in with COVID and everything like that. And so we were, Caesar's Palace has like an occupancy limit. And so we knew that we would be safe there. And then we found this really great townhome that's just right by a trolley stop that'll take us into the park.
It's not an actual trolley. It's a bus stop, though, right?
No. That one is like a trolley that takes you to the...
With like railroad tracks kind of trolley?
No, they call it a trolley. Or no, I'm sorry. They call it a shuttle. I get those terms
There you
confused.
go.
Yeah.
When you think of trolley, you think of like a railroad system.
Yeah, no, I'm sorry. You're right. It's like a little shuttle bus. Yeah. And then it'll take us up to the visitors entrance, and then we will trade in our free pass for the national parks.
Awesome. Free pass. Who doesn't like free? I love free. And we're going to go hiking around the trails and in the water and see the water things and the waterfall stuff and
How about I describe it?
Well, I'm describing it too.
Well, okay, first of all, we scored a free pass because Jacob just finished 4th grade. And I don't know if everybody that's listening knows this, but if you don't, it is a great, great deal. Is that there is, it's called like America the Beautiful. It's a 4th grade program for every 4th grader in the United States to have the opportunity to go to a national park. And so what they do is you go onto the national parks website and you claim your free annual pass for that entire year that your child's in 4th grade. You can visit as many as you want, and it gets all children under the age of 16 that are with you and up to 4 adults in for free.
Wow, free. That's fantastic.
Right.
How much would it cost normally?
I think it's anywhere just from depends from $10 to $15 per person. I think
wow.
It's just depending. But Zion's different. So like Yosemite, you can drive in and you pay for the car.
Right.
But Zion, you have to walk in and go through their visitor center and get on their shuttles because they don't let other traffic in unless you're staying at the lodge inside.
Really? So are we staying at the lodge then?
No, we're staying at a townhome just outside of the park.
Oh, okay, I gotcha. So it's 2 nights there, right?
Right.
2 days there. Then we do a return trip back south to Las Vegas.
Right.
Where have we figured out where we're staying at in Las Vegas?
No, this is such a nightmare. Okay, so when we go back to Vegas, we had booked our reservations at Rio. And Rio, if you don't know, is an all-suites hotel. And so for us, it's really good because every kid will have a spot to sleep. There's like a pull-out sofa and 2 beds and great views and a great pool. Well, I decided to just double-check everything the other day, and it said the Rio is temporarily closed.
What?
Right. So I called Caesar's Rewards.
And they took your reservation.
They took our reservation.
And they're closed.
Right. So I called Caesar's Rewards. And first I was like, is it just the pool or is it the whole hotel? Because even if it's just the pool, we want to move our reservation because that's why we're staying there, is to let the kids play in the pool. Not to mention, my best friend Kira is driving down from Salt Lake City to join us for one night. I haven't seen her in over a year. And the kids were going to swim together and she was going to meet Chris. So
that'd be great. Yeah, meet the world famous Chris.
So I was on the phone with Caesars and they're like, well, we're going to move your reservation complimentary over to Harrah's.
What's wrong with Harrah's?
There's like the pool there. It's like an apartment complex little pool.
Yeah.
And not like my old apartment complex. We're talking like
a basic apartment complex.
Kiddie pool. And I was like, this isn't going to work. So then I was negotiating with them and I was like, okay, well, we want to move to the Flamingo. It's still in the Caesars group. I'd like a comparable room.
And the Flamingo has a full-on water slide and a whole like pool area that has water slides and a big giant mega like party pool, DJs and drinking. That's for adults, by the way.
Right.
But it's a big pool party spot during the summer. It's like a big place to go to.
Right, but Vegas is pretty empty right now. And so I definitely wanted to like stay there. So I'm on the phone with a gal saying, okay, well, we want to transfer over to the Flamingo. And she says, okay, well, I can do that. And I can put you in a 2-queen room. And I said, well, it's a suite, right? Oh, no, you'd have to pay an upgrade fee. And I said, but I was in a suite at Rio. And there's, my best friend is bringing her 4 kids. We're bringing our 3. We need enough beds for the kids. And she's like, well, I can upgrade you, but let me look at the room that you're wanting, what the upgrade charge is going to be. Guess what it was, Chris?
I don't know what.
$254 per room per night.
Additional to what we were already paying?
Right.
Wow.
Right. So.
Well, they'd be lucky for us to even be there. How dare you?
So what I did is I tried to work at a couple different angles, gave our rewards account number, and she was still quoting me this expensive price. And I said, you know what, just please cancel my reservation, because the thing that we've shared before on this podcast is Chris and I were members of Caesar's rewards group. And so we get mad discounts on hotels, right, Chris?
If not free.
Right. So Caesar's we're staying at, it was a comp. So we get it free. We just pay taxes and resort fee. And then for Rio, we got each of the rooms for $24 per night. So we got 2 suites for like $50 plus fees. It was $100 for a one night stay for 2 rooms. And they were going to charge us like $500 at Flamingo.
Ooh, wow.
So I looked it up. I didn't even log in, Chris. Get this one. I went to the website while I'm talking to the girl. I didn't log into my rewards account. And I looked at what the price was just for a person off the street.
Right. Just
that cost of that room with no rewards, she was going to charge me a total of $290. Guess what it's actually going for?
I don't know what.
$109.
Why is it?
Exactly. It makes no sense.
That doesn't make no sense at all.
Yeah. It's like, it's all about how they look things up. And so that's all to say, people, you can vacation very inexpensively if you're part of different rewards programs and you shop the deals. So what I didn't do is commit to that. I told her to cancel the reservation, and I've been shopping around to try and find the absolute best deal. And I haven't settled on it yet, but I will by tonight.
Well, that's good, because we are leaving tomorrow, so you better figure out where we're staying, come back on that road trip.
Right.
So also this week, what else has been going on around the house?
Oh, well, construction has been continuing. So after
Construction City up in this place,
right.
My goodness.
Last week's episode, we talked about the water leak, and at that point, we didn't know the extent of the damage. But Chris, how extensive was the damage?
Well, it flooded into the kids' room next door. It flooded into the wood. It flooded through the ceiling. And so they had to bring all these machines in here, rip out the bathroom, rip out the cabinets, rip out the floor, and put all of these humidifier machines, fans.
Dehumidifiers.
Dehumidifier machines to suck the water out of the air. And then they put these mats down the floor that had like these hoses in them to try to suck the water out, like literally out of the wood.
Well, because it's the wood flooring.
Yeah,
right?
the wood flooring is what got all the water went to. And so they're trying to suck it all out, and they didn't get most of it out. They got most of it out, right, Christine?
Yeah, so it was the water that had seeped under the wood flooring in the boys' closet and bedroom. It was at 99% moisture rating when they checked it the first day they were here. It's down to 23%, but the industry standard is 14, and they can only wiggle on that 4%. So they could like go up to 18, but the fact that we're 23 means they're still going to have to come back while we're out of town, and they're going to have to rip out part of the wood flooring. And the water migrated into the built-in bookshelf in the boys' closet, and they're going to have to come in and cut some of that out too.
Oh, God. Are they going to repair that or fix that, or what are they going to do?
Well, that's why they offered to do it today. And I said, my adjuster is on vacation. Even the guy he deferred us to didn't respond to my email. Before we do anything, I want in writing that they're authorizing the demo and that they're going to comp the replacement to that, because that shelving, while it looks like it's not very significant in the boys' closet, it's a custom built shelf that's built into the actual closet. And then they're talking about wood flooring that's no longer being produced. And so we just want to make sure like the whole house is that same wood flooring, right, Chris?
Absolutely. Make sure everything's done right. So if they're going to fix it, let them fix it. If they're going to say the green light, whatever they decide to do, we're going to go with it. And because the insurance is paying for this. So
right. For the most part.
Right. Mostly they are. So far, so good.
So we're thankful for that. It could have been worse. We're thankful the insurance has stepped up and said they're covering it. And the other thing that I'm so incredibly thankful for, Chris, is that this happened a week ago and we got the whole house dried out before we have to leave town.
Right, because who knows what we have to have done if we weren't here. And speaking of that, they did shut the power off yesterday for a little bit, but
yeah,
that was another story. My goodness.
And then a couple days ago, the hot water went out. It has been a hot mess over here, so we are very excited.
And speaking of hot, it's been really hot weather-wise.
Right.
Those machines put off so much heat. Upstairs, they make this whole upstairs level so hot.
Right.
And the air conditioning doesn't do nothing. Air conditioning is on. Oh, just turn the AC on, the guy says. Oh, just run the AC, whatever. Yeah, I was saying that AC is so old, it will not keep up with demand of this heat. Because you're literally, it's equivalent of putting 3 ovens cranking them on and leaving them upstairs.
Right outside of our bedroom.
Right. Windows open, whatever, and it's hot. And
Well, we couldn't leave the windows open because the dehumidifiers couldn't function that way. So you're closing
it's like
everything
being in hell. It's like literally.
It's like literally, let's just bake some cookies while we're at it, like on top of everything.
Oh my goodness. And speaking of being hot, one thing people like to do during the summertime when it is hot, which they really can't do right now until they open it up, that is going to the movies.
Ooh, I love the movies.
Everybody goes to the movies for the air conditioning and the sound and just relaxing. It's a really good fun time. One of my favorite things to do during the summer is go to the movies.
I can't wait for that.
And they have all the great summer blockbuster movies that always come out this time of year, you know. But right now, I don't think there's any coming out right now.
Right. But, you know, it's something definitely to look forward to. And one of the things that we love when we go to the movies is looking at things like the special effects and all of those different types of things. Right, Chris?
That is absolutely right. And coming up next are very special. We have 2 VIP guests that both have worked in Hollywood on movies in visual effects. And we will talk to them right after this. Hey there, K2 crew. We love having you as our loyal listeners.
To keep up to date with what's happening behind the scenes, check us out on social media.
Yeah, you can find us on Instagram and Twitter.
And don't forget to follow our Facebook page.
Yeah, tag us in your favorite fun stories, and guess what? You might just end up on the show.
Ooh. And welcome back, everybody. Today we have not one, but 2 very special guests on the show. This dynamic duo are living out their dream of empowering women on a daily basis. They have an incredible story and journey, and they will be sharing it with all of us today. Please welcome to the show, Amy and Nancy Harrington.
Hi, thanks so much for having us.
Thank you.
Hey, thank you, ladies, for showing up on our show today.
Yeah, we're so excited. So where are you joining us from today? Where in the world?
We are in sunny Los Angeles, California, although it's slightly overcast today.
A little bit.
Do you ladies both live in Los Angeles?
We do.
We do. Yeah, we live about 10 minutes away from each other. So we physically work together a couple times a week, usually, but we actually haven't seen each other closer than 6 feet apart for the last 3 months, which is the longest we've been apart since we both lived in LA, and very difficult for us.
Oh my word. I can only imagine. I have 3 sisters and I have not seen them other than on Zoom since actually Christmas time because I live a couple hundred miles away from them. But
A couple hundred, more like 400,
well,
right?
yeah, about 400 from some of them. But typically I see them like every other weekend or once a month. And so I feel your pain, especially when your sisters are your best friends.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's there are 4 girls in our family and 1 boy, and we've been Zooming too. But yeah, it's really hard not to. It's weird because we see each other, we talk to each other every day online, but that physical connection is really, I miss it so much.
Yeah, definitely. It's definitely a trying time for all of us. So we appreciate you taking time out of your busy schedule to join us. And for our listeners, I met Amy and Nancy online through a fantastic podcasting group, and I was really intrigued with their story, shared it with Chris, and he said, yes, book them. They sound amazing. So we're excited to bring this show to you today. So let's just hop right into it, ladies.
Great.
So we would love to first find out a bit about your background. Like, what have you done for work? Have you always lived in LA? Tell us all the details.
All right. So Amy and I grew up south of Boston, and we were best friends when we were children. Amy moved to California in 1990.
90. Yep.
Yeah. And I stayed back in Boston for another 10 years. I had my own graphic design company, and I also ran a theater with my husband. So I did a lot of producing, and I had a lot of creative work. And then in the late 90s, I got kind of bored, and my husband was kind of bored, and he's a composer, and he wanted to come out to LA, and Amy was already out in LA, and I thought, why not? So we packed up the truck and we moved to Beverly Hills. And
Wow, Beverly Hills. That's a big step up.
Burbank, really.
Lower. Yeah, we packed up the truck. We moved to California, and I started working for a advertising agency out here, and I worked for them for 3 years doing the Academy Award campaigns for Miramax and Paramount Classics. So it was very glamorous Hollywood life, but it was really super stressful. And I really wanted to have my own business again. I didn't like working for someone else. I've always been an entrepreneur. And around that time, Amy was getting the itch to move on as well. So she can pick up from here until you hear her story and how we wound up together.
Okay.
Yeah, so I moved to LA right after I graduated college and got into TV really quickly, worked on the TV show Matlock. For all your grandmothers out there.
Oh, I loved Matlock. And I'm not a grandma, but I loved watching
I've
Matlock.
heard of Matlock. I've heard of it. I don't remember what it's about, though.
Oh, it's the best. Okay. So you're one of my favorite people. Go ahead.
Oh, excellent.
Oh, it gets better.
And Matlock, you got to check it out, Christopher. He's a Southern lawyer who always turns on his clients on the stand. It's amazing.
Turns on them? Like goes against them?
It's incredible. Like he seems like he's defending the right person, and he's always like, wait a minute, I think it was you. And completely unethically turns on them.
Wow.
So after that, I got into visual effects, and I got a job on the movie Coneheads, and that led to me moving over to Warner Brothers, where I helped start the first in-house visual effects company for Warner Brothers, where we set up a team that actually did visual effects work on the Warner Brothers movies. And then I was asked to go over to the studio to work directly for the feature film division. I became the first woman from what we can tell in the history of the film industry, to become a vice president of post-production and visual effects simultaneously for the film department at Warner Brothers. So
wow.
I worked on about... Yeah, it was great. And I was very young at the time. I got very lucky. And I worked on about 250 movies while I was there in various stages, and worked on the first 3 Harry Potter movies, The Matrixes, You've Got Mail, Perfect Storm, Analyze This. So I worked on a bunch of movies, and I loved it. But then there was, politics happens in Hollywood all the time, and they restructured the department, and I just felt like that was a good time for me to leave. At the same time, Nancy was looking to leave her job, so we joined hands, Thelma and Louise style, and drove off the cliff together.
Robbed some banks along the way?
I should have. That would have been a good move, actually, in retrospect.
So it sounds like you both were pretty steeped in Hollywood culture at the time. What was that experience like for you and your families?
I in the advertising world at the time, it was just at the beginning of the digital age, where I worked mainly on print ads for Academy Award campaigns. So it was extremely stressful, because before the digital age, when an ad went to a magazine or a newspaper to print, you'd have to get it there a day or two beforehand, because there was all sorts of work that had to happen with the ad before they could print it. Mm-hmm. In the digital age, we sent over a file, and granted, the networks were a little slower back then, but we still, we could get an advertising to print, 10, 15 minutes before they turned on the presses. So, our biggest client was Miramax and Harvey Weinstein. Fortunately, I did not have any personal interaction with him, but I do have secondhand knowledge of working with him, in that if he had time to make a change, he was going to make a change. So we were oftentimes, working till 2, 3 o'clock in the morning until we went to press, making changes because we could. So it was a really, really stressful time. And, fortunately for me, I'm married, but I don't have children. And so I have a very understanding husband, but it was hard, because I was working very long hours. I would leave at 7:30, 8 o'clock in the morning, and I sometimes wouldn't be home till 2 a.m. So it was difficult. And by the end of the 3 years, I was really ready to move on.
Well, you said you were doing the advertising print for the Academy Awards. What exactly is that? Are you talking like newspaper ads or flyers?
Newspaper ads, and we did all of the ads that were in Variety and Hollywood Reporter. So, all those for your consideration, trying to get people to vote for the movies, trying to get people in the Academy to vote for the movies. And that's kind of how Academy Awards are won, is lots of name recognition. I mean, Harvey was good at that. I mean, he won a lot of awards back then. I worked there in the era of Chicago and big films like that. So he was in the middle of a string of, I think he won 5 or 6 Best Picture awards in a row there for a while. So it was pretty intense.
Yeah, it sounds like it. And so, Amy, what was that experience of the Hollywood lifestyle like for you during that time frame?
Also intense, but incredible. I mean, I was really fortunate in that I was single, and even especially before Nancy and her husband moved here, I didn't have any family in LA. I just had a great network of friends, so I was the one in the department that they would say, "We need someone to go to London tonight," and I'd say, "Okay, I'll go." And I could stay for as long as I wanted or needed to because no one was waiting for me back home. So it was incredible for a really long time. And I was, I'm a workaholic anyway, but I absolutely loved what I was doing. So, I was, again, fortunate to work with some of the greatest filmmakers in the history of, the industry, like Tim Burton and Ridley Scott. And Nora Ephron, but I also, over the course of 10 years, it was very tiring. Like Nancy, I worked, I would get up there. I had some jobs where I would get up at 6 o'clock in the morning and I wouldn't get home till 3, and I'd sleep for an hour or two and then I'd go back out. But the fun side of it was I got to be on these incredible movies. I got to stand alone on Diagon Alley on Harry Potter one morning, and I could go onto the Warner Brothers lot and walk around and go to all the different movie sets and, meet celebrities and famous filmmakers. And I learned so much. I'm a kind of person, I'm just so curious. So the beauty of my job was we worked with every single department at the studio, from marketing to props to the heads of the film department. So I really got to learn kind of every aspect of it. And then when the political shift happened, it was also hitting a point where Warner Brothers had been restructured on a bigger level. There had been a big merger between AOL and Time Warner that really changed the culture of the company, and everything was starting to get really budget oriented versus.
Oh, wow.
At the time when I started, Warner Brothers was still kind of that old school Hollywood where talent was king and you really focused on making things great. And it hit a point where it was really about money. And, one of the breaking points for me was one day on the third Harry Potter movie when one of the executives said to me, "How are we going to make Harry Potter fly?" And I said, "Well, we've been making him fly for 2 other movies, so we're gonna kind of do the same stuff." Like,
Well, they didn't
and
like the way it was done or something?
no, they just didn't understand the process, even though we'd been through it.
Well, tell them to go back and watch the original Superman. That was like in the 70s, and they figured it out then.
Exactly, and honestly, a lot of those techniques still applied. So it was
Right.
like, well, we're gonna do this here, and I appreciated that I had an understanding of something that someone else didn't have, but I also thought, oh, I'm going to have this same conversation for at least 4 more, and it turned out to be 5 more films if I stick around. And I don't know that I want to do the same thing every day. What I liked about my job was how different it was and how challenging it was. And it was feeling like it was starting to get like a little bit repetitive. And so for me, I was ready to do something again in my life that I didn't know how to do, and that was really challenging.
Was there a lot of pressure on these newer movies? Because I know that each movie, especially with visual effects, they always tried to take it up the next level, kick it up a notch. Was there a lot of pressure with that?
Oh, yeah. Yeah. And I mean, and again, kind of like Nancy was saying on her end, I was at Warner Brothers really during the advent of digital visual effects. So when I worked at the effects company within Warner Brothers, we had done an opening shot on, I believe it's in Batman Forever. And it's a shot that you fly through Gotham, right? And it was
I
all
remember
done.
that. Yes, I remember that
Yeah,
scene.
okay. So we did that all digitally, and at the time, no one had tried to do that kind of shot digitally. If you look at it now, it looks like my nephew, who's 12, did it on his computer. But
Yes.
at the time, it literally probably took us like 6 months and a team of
Wow.
like 30 people. So, that was really groundbreaking for what it was then. And then, flash forward a few years, we did Perfect Storm. And a lot of my job at the time was they would bring us a book or a script and they would say, can we even do this? And, with Perfect Storm, no one had really done digital water the right way yet. And so we worked really hard with Industrial Light and Magic, ILM, who is famous for all the Star Wars movies mostly, but we worked really hard with them on a proof of concept to show everybody that, yes, you can make realistic looking water, and knowing how to blend that with practical effects to make, to always helps make it look more real. But yeah, so at the time, Warner Brothers was the biggest movie studio in the world, most successful at that moment in time, and really most into, at the time, big budget effects movies. The Batman movies were really kind of the height of the big effects movies at that time. And then we just kept pushing the boundaries with the Harry Potters and with Perfect Storm and all those movies. So we were really we were kind of on the forefront of the figuring out the digital techniques for a lot of those movies.
That's
And yeah, so there's a lot of pressure, but it was also really challenging and satisfying, because once you made something like that happen, it was just felt so great to be on the team that figured it out.
That's so incredible. So you as sisters were in two different professions on these parallel tracks of finding great success, and then sounds like around the same time frame, this political dynamic emerges and you both reach your tipping point and you say, let's do something new. So let's talk about that. What ended up being that something new that you jumped into, as you said, Thelma and Louise style?
It was a gradual progression. The initial catalyst was a friend of ours approached us about helping her to start a cable network, and we thought, oh, that seems like a challenge, and we did that for a little while. We worked on it part-time while we were still at our jobs, and then we finally took the jump and said, let's just, see if we can make this fly. And we worked on that for a little while. And sadly, that did not come to fruition. But what we did learn was, like, we are capable of doing anything we want to do. So let's figure it out. And then we went through a series of consulting gigs and a few other jobs before we landed at a pop culture website that was just starting. The company that owns Shout Factory started a pop culture website, and they hired us to create most of the content for it. So we were doing videos and writing blogs and doing interviews, and we really loved that job, and we learned a lot there. And but unfortunately, that was in 2008. 2009, and so by 2010 they were out of business.
Oh no!
So in 2010, that's when we really were like, the person we were working with there was starting another company, and he said, "Why don't you guys come work for me, and we'll build this from the ground up." And we thought, what, if we're going to build something from the ground up, let's do it for ourselves. Let's stop working for other people. So
I love that. I love that so much.
That's when we started Pop Culture Passionistas, and we started to take on clients. Our biggest client was Television Academy, and we started doing red carpet interviews for them and archival interviews for them. So they have a whole archive of oral histories with people in the television profession, where they're like 3 or 4 hour long interviews that start with, what was your name at birth? And they end with, how do you want to be remembered? And you go through their entire career for those 3 or 4 hours. And so they're really in-depth and incredible interviews. And that's where we really started honing our interview skills and realizing this is what we really love to do. I mean, it's just so great to sit and really get to know people on that level. So So that sort of led us into pop culture passionistas. And then Amy, do you want to talk about how that led to the Passionistas Project?
Yeah, sure. So like Nancy said, luckily we both just decided that we love doing interviews at the same time. One of us didn't say, "I don't want to do that. Go ahead." So we built up Pop Culture Passionistas, and we loved doing it, but we were hitting a point where we were feeling like we wanted to do something that contributed to society a little bit more than just a straight pop culture show. And we were having a hard time figuring out what that was. And we had wanted to do a podcast. And again, we didn't want to do a straight pop culture podcast. And then, frankly, the Me Too movement happened.
Oh, right.
And,
Mm-hmm.
We have both been fortunate that we do not have our own Me Too stories, but we have been women in business for a long time, so we had a certain perspective on what that was like. And we every day we would wake up and we would hear more really sad but really important Me Too stories. And one day we just realized, we know personally, or we know of a lot of women who have really powerful stories that are stories of empowerment and of running their own businesses or following a certain passion that may be off the beaten track.
Right.
And we should be telling those stories. We should contribute to this Me Too dialogue by adding in a layer of really positive, powerful stories. And so with that, we founded the Passionistas Project, and we started with the podcast. And we interview women who are following their passions to inspire other women to do the same. And,
I love that so much. Sounds so life affirming.
Oh, it's changed our lives completely. I mean, I really thought, okay, we'll interview people. And you guys know from doing interviews, like you feel a certain connection to the person you're talking to for the period you're talking to them. Maybe you stay in touch a little bit, but interviewing celebrities, it was like, okay, bye, have a nice time.
Oh, was it pretty much cut and dry, just like straight to the point, and they don't want to talk about anything except whatever they're plugging, right?
Well, it's interesting because we got to do the archive interviews, which are a little different. Yes, on like something like the red carpet, for sure. It's like they're so distracted, they give you their 2 minutes and then they have to go to the event. But the archive interviews are amazing because you get 3 or 4 hours with someone and you talk to them about their childhood and the entire arc of their career. So you do definitely feel it's way more in depth. They share a lot more than they would in a regular interview. They're very trusting during those interviews, and they're told at the beginning, if you want to say something about an experience in your life and you don't want that revealed until, let's say, after you're gone or after the person you're talking about is gone, we'll put that in a time capsule. So you
you can do that?
Yeah, it's
I didn't
really
do that.
cool. So they'll say things sometimes that are like, put that out 5 years after I've passed away. It's like, okay, we can do that. So we get connection to them during the interview, but then you see somebody like Julia Louis-Dreyfus 3 years later, and it's like, hi, I know you don't know me, and that's okay because that's the way that relationship's supposed to be. But with the Passionistas Project, I mean, we never expected how close and how connected we would be to the women that we're interviewing, and what a community we would end up creating for our listeners, but also for ourselves in the midst of all this. So it's been the greatest thing I could ever imagine either one of us doing.
Yeah.
That sounds so exciting. So you went through this Pop Culture Passionistas, or the Pop Culture Project, to the Passionistas Project. And now where has this work evolved to? Because I've heard that you are really trying to dig into this women's empowerment space. We'd love to hear more about what you're doing currently.
All right. So we're still doing the podcast. We do an episode every other week. And we've also expanded out to have a subscription box. So it's a quarterly subscription box that's filled with products by women-owned businesses and female artisans. So that's now, and we've just shipped out our summer box. So we've done 3 boxes. So that's starting to grow a little bit. We're keeping it slow right now because of the coronavirus. We're going to see where the economy goes, but we plan to continue to grow that. And then our biggest hope now is we are currently working. We'll probably be making the formal announcement soon. When this podcast goes live, it will have been announced by then. But we are in August. We're doing the first annual Passionistas Women's Equality Virtual Summit. We are marking the 100th anniversary of women getting the right to vote in the United States, with the acknowledgement that all women didn't get the right to vote.
Right.
What? They didn't?
No, they did not. Black women were not allowed to vote.
That's right.
Women of color were not allowed to vote until 1965. So it was a huge step forward for women, but it was not all inclusive. And obviously, from what we're seeing in our world today, it's still a big issue. So our hope with this summit is to talk about all aspects of women's equality, from racial equality to workplace equality to LGBT equality and everything in between. So we're going to have some live panel discussions. We're going to have some pre-recorded on-demand content. We're going to have a virtual market for women business owners and artisans, and it's going to take place the end of August. So we're really excited about that, and we're really excited about bringing all of these amazing women that we've met through the years together to work on this event.
I love that so much. I was sharing about that with Chris, and he said, "Oh, that sounds like it's right up your alley," because my doctoral research right now is on the advancement of Latinas into senior level leadership positions, specifically in education. And you're right, there are so many little areas within our country where women of color, Black women specifically, but Latinx women also, don't have access to the same types of opportunities as many others. And you'd think in 2020, and with celebrating 100 years of women having the right to vote, that conditions would have changed. But there's so much that still hasn't. So kudos to you all for taking this on and for providing a venue to be able to talk through these issues.
Good job, by the way.
Thank you. Yeah, we're excited. We feel really blessed in the lives that we have had and that we have, and we've just met so many incredible women that know so much more than we do about all these different areas where improvement needs to happen. And we just, like with the podcast, we want to give these incredible women a spotlight to tell their stories. We're just kind of the behind the scenes, let's make it happen. But, this isn't about us telling our story. It's about everybody else sharing what they know and educating on that level. And we've got some incredible people. We can't really announce people yet, but we've got some really incredible people we're talking to who, if they come on board, they're the best in their field on some of these topics. And so we're really honored that they're even considering being a part of it.
That's very exciting. And so, ladies, thinking about this arc of your careers and where you've come from to where you are now, how would you say that your purpose in life has or has not changed?
If you had told me 15 years ago that I was going to be spending my time interviewing people and talking about women's empowerment and politics and social change, I would have said, "Really? I think you have the wrong girl." I was very privileged. I have to say, I never really had encounters with sexual harassment. I was always self-employed, so I didn't have workplace problems. And I naively thought, I love everybody. Doesn't everybody love everybody?
Right.
And I was also extremely shy. So the idea that I was going to make a living talking to people was crazy, So every single aspect of the Passionistas Project has changed my life immensely for the better. I feel more educated. I feel more open. I feel more included. And it fills my soul every day to know that we are helping to spread the word about all of these incredible women and the work they're all doing.
Yeah.
That's great. That's great. I mean,
I agree with that. And I think for me, I was all about the work and the project, getting the movie done, getting the, reading the script, going where I needed to go, making sure people were doing what they needed to do, all with the end result of the movie that was coming out, and it being the best it could be. And I didn't really have a lot of space in my life for the people as much. I had friends and I had coworkers, and they ate up a lot of my social life, but I didn't have, it was really about the movie at the end of the day. And now I wake up every morning and I think about the women that that have been fortunate enough to meet, and I'm thinking about ways that we can raise their voices and give them a platform. And it's so not about me. Nancy and I do these kind of interviews so that we can promote the podcast, so that we can promote the women. So it's not about us wanting to, let's get our moment in the spotlight. For me, I do these things because I want to have the opportunity to continue to promote the women. So I've gone from it being all about the product to it being all about the people. And that's just been the greatest change I could have ever imagined.
Well, that is so amazing. And as Chris would say, that's fantastic.
I gotta say, it's fantastic.
Yeah, that's kind of his word on our show. So we appreciate your time so much. We appreciate your calling, because that's really what this is. And the time and attention that you give to empowering women across the globe. And so, ladies, where can our listeners find out more about your podcast, your resources, your subscription box,
Social
and your
media,
journey?
all that stuff.
Yeah. The easiest way is to go to the Passionistasproject.com. And you can link out there to all of our social media and find out about the subscription box. A podcast is there. And probably by the end of next week, there will be a page announcing the virtual summit. Social media, we're pretty much the Passionistas Project, and Twitter, we're Passions Proj. But yeah, that's the best way.
Wonderful. So listeners, definitely reach out, support the Passionistasproject.com. We appreciate so much the time that you've spent with us today. And one last question for you. As we are budding interviewers and we're continuing to refine our craft, what advice would you give to us as we move forward?
Okay.
That's a good one. I would say the most important interview question is to listen. Because it's not about you, it's about them. So really listen to what they're saying. I think as an interviewer, when I listen to interviews, the most frustrating thing, and I know, Chris, you're the king of the follow-up. To me, that's the most important thing. When somebody, you can tell when somebody's just following a list of questions, and because someone says something really, really fascinating, and the interviewer goes, "Okay, great," and then moves on to the next question.
Right.
Wait a minute.
Or they don't even say that. They don't even say that. They just go straight to the next one.
Yeah. So I think listening is the most valuable interview tool you can have.
Well, yeah. And personally, I hardly even use the list. Christine's got a list for me, but I hardly even look at it. So I just listen to whatever you guys are saying, and then I just come up with things on the fly.
Right, but I think that's why you guys are good together, because it's really good to be prepared, and it's really good to roll with it. So that's why your podcast is so good, because it's a great combination.
Mm-hmm. Well, thank you very much.
Thank you so much, ladies.
And I think my other piece of advice is just because Nancy and I are the kind of people that we like to finish other people's sentences. And so we really had to learn doing interviews, like, wait until you're 100% sure someone's finished with what they're saying, and then give it an extra beat, because sometimes in that silence, they'll keep going, and they'll go to a place that, even if they had a prepared answer for your question, if you give it that extra little space, they get nervous, they keep talking, and they might say something that even they didn't expect to say, which is when when the greatest answers come out.
Right. In education, we call that wait time. And it's like there's actually a science behind it for in classroom settings. If you wait 10 seconds, somebody's going to speak because it's so crippling to them that somebody's going to start talking, when you ask a question. So
The awkward silence.
right, that
Oh,
it
that's
does.
cool.
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
So you definitely pause, and it's either, wait for a couple clicks and then, okay, they're definitely not going to answer, or let's come up with another question. But we appreciate your advice. We appreciate your expertise. And thank you so much for taking time out of your busy schedules. We look forward to seeing the continued great things that come from the Passionistas Project and all of the other sub-projects that come as a result of that.
Thank you. Thank you both so much for having us. We really appreciate it.
That was really great. Thank you so much.
Thanks, ladies.
Thanks, Christopher.
With so many podcasts out in the world, you have a plethora of options. Take a chance with Too Many Captains, a movie podcast. Mixing comedy with an academic look at film and Hollywood culture, this podcast is perfect for those looking for a fresh perspective. From deep dives into classic films to debates on digital streaming versus physical media and film discussions based on randomly chosen topics in our What Are We Talking About segments, there's something to satisfy all your movie podcast cravings. So if you're feeling lucky or feel the need for speed, grab your shaken martini or some fava beans and a nice Chianti and subscribe to us on Spotify, Apple Podcast, or Google Play. For more content, visit amoviepodcast.com. Find us on Instagram at Too Many Captains Productions and on Twitter at It's a Film Podcast. Too Many Captains, the jolliest bunch of podcasters this side of the nut house.
Hey, well, that was super cool to have those two ladies on the show, wasn't that, Christine?
Yeah, totally.
And I do believe what they had to say was pretty relatable. It did hit close to home, didn't it, for you, Christine?
Yeah, it really did. And, I didn't expect it to when they were talking specifically around their role in the Me Too movement and in women's empowerment. I mean, we've talked before on this podcast about my research really being about the underrepresentation of Latinas in school district superintendencies. But what I didn't expect to hit home was something that's happening to me personally right now.
Oh, no.
Well, you say, oh, no, like you don't know.
Well, I'm trying to build it up for the audience a little bit.
Well, would you say that in addition to all of the stuff here at home that's been happening with like the construction, that there's been some other heaviness in our house?
Yes, there is, Christine. And for you personally, of course.
Yeah, it's been a really difficult time. So I've been actually in the midst of an investigation with an individual at my university, an academic, so it's not like another student, but that has been intimidating and harassing me and has been really, I don't even know how to put it nicely, so I'm not going to put it nicely because I'm not going to downplay it, but has really it's been devastating to my self-confidence, to my feeling like I can actually be successful. And I've been in the midst of this investigation and had to be interviewed earlier this week and provide all kinds of documentation. And I mean, Chris, you've walked through this with me, not just this week, but the weeks leading up to this. How has it affected you?
Oh, I know. Christine's been very upset and she's been very emotional and didn't know. She actually thought she was going to quit her course for her doctoral because this professor was very, very rude to her. And it seems like whatever she did, it didn't matter what she did, it was always wrong. Even though other people in her field have said, yeah, what you're doing is right, Christine. Everything seems fine. I don't know what this professor is saying. I don't know why he thinks that you're doing it all wrong. But coming from my perspective on the outside, it's hard to see you go through something like that when you have worked so hard and you hit every checklist. You are a perfectionist when it comes to things like that. So for you to miss the boat on whatever he's talking about doesn't make sense to you or me or anybody else. So you had to actually change classes. Is that right? Let you do that, right?
Right. I had to have because the type of treatment related to me being a woman and being a Latina, because that's what I was being forbidden or prohibited to write about. I was able to seek protections from the Office of Equity and Diversity so that I didn't come out like if this individual was to retaliate against me and my grades were to be impacted by it, I could be jeopardized in the program. I could have to repeat this entire semester. Financial aid wouldn't cover a repeated course. And so I had to make sure that I was okay while still speaking up. And I think that is the hardest thing. What Amy and Nancy were talking about in the Me Too movement is giving a voice to women that are being alienated and oppressed. And I spoke up, and I actually posted something on Facebook, and it was very vague. I didn't put any reference to the individual, like people didn't know the context. And I had individuals that had these same classes messaging me privately, Chris, and saying, thank you for speaking up. He's been doing this to me too.
And you didn't say it was the same person, but they knew it was the same person.
They know that I'm in their class.
Okay, so they know who it is.
But I didn't, not everybody would know that. Other people wouldn't know. But then I also had a professor from the university who's my Facebook friend reach out and say, who is speaking to you like this? This is not okay. What can I do to support you? And so it's been this, I had to speak up, and I had so much anxiety, Chris, because I don't think what people realize is that when you're in that position and somebody has power over you, like power over your grades, that's my future success at USC.
Right.
Right? And so if he could, in my program, if you get a C, that's failing.
Wow.
Right. So it's like excellence is expected. And so it was very nerve-wracking to speak up and think that I could still have to be in his class. And so after some more types of behavior happened towards me that was aggressive in nature, the university acted on my behalf to move me so that I could still continue the process of the investigation. But it has been so exhausting. And so that's why I'm so thankful that people like Amy and Nancy, who work in Hollywood, and even though they hadn't experienced the Me Too, any type of harassment or sexual abuse, that they speak up and give a voice to other women.
That is fantastic.
Yeah. And I love their virtual summit that's coming up. And guess what, Chris?
What?
They've extended an invitation for me to actually be a speaker in their summit.
Wow, that's awesome.
So I'm going to be able to take some of my message of empowerment and overcoming, and not just standing up, not just speaking out, but standing up and standing up against injustices to a much broader audience. And so for that, this has been a fantastic connection. So thank you, honey.
That is great. And by the way, when you're up there, please just plug the podcast. Just give us one little shout out.
I will, for sure. I will. And so I'm just so appreciative of Amy and Nancy Harrington being on this show and for the work that they do on behalf of all women, not just those in Hollywood, but giving a voice to all of us. And it gives us the courage to continue to speak up against oppression.
Thank you. And thank you for listening to our Christine's message. And thank you for supporting the show. And thank you for listening to the show. And if you want more information, you can go to
chrisandchristineshow.com.
That is chrisandchristineshow.com with K's. And if you can't remember that, guess what? On the show notes, on the podcast player that you're watching this thing on, you're listening to this thing on right now. If you look at it, you will see the show notes. In the show notes, we post the website and the email and all that funsy stuff.
Yep. And so we will see you all next week when we report out on our fabulous family adventure. See you next week. Remember this week that life is too short to wake up in the morning with regret.
So love the people who treat you right, forget about the ones who don't, and believe that everything happens for a reason.
If you get a chance, take it. If it changes your life, let it. Nobody said that it would be easy.
They just promised it would be worth it. Thanks so much for joining us. I'm Chris.
And I'm Christine. And until next week,
keep moving forward.